Thanks for joining us in the Idea Lab. I'm Neely McQueen, and I'm hanging out with Wayne Rice right now, the founder of YS.
That would be the co-founder.
Co-founder, yes.
With Mike
Yaconelli.
Yes.
In 1968.
1968, it started in my back bedroom, and we were typing up the first idea book, and we thought, we need a name for this company, and something that sounds better than Mike and Wayne's publishing company. And so there was a place down the street that sold Corvette parts called Youth Specialties. And we thought, how about Youth Specialties?
Oh,
good, put it on there. So we did. That's how it all started.
That's so funny. And you've been doing it for a long time. You've written lots of books. Lots of books. And you still work at a church right now.
Well, still, I haven't worked at a church in a long time, but I have been for the last 4 or 5 years now. I've been involved in youth special. I started out as a youth minister in a local church, and then Youth Specialties took all of my full-time attention. And then when I left YS, I started a ministry to parents, traveling around the country, trying to help parents connect with their kids a little bit better, a thing called Understanding Your Teenager. It's now part of Homeward. And finally the Lord says, okay, big mouth, you've been running around writing books about this and talking about how parents and older adults ought to be connecting with kids. I want you to go back into a church and see if you can actually do it. And so that's how I ended up back in a church. I really felt that's where I needed to go.
And at the current setting, you're working on intergenerational stuff. Like, how do you do that? How do you get youth with adults, kids with grandparents? How does that happen? That's what you're doing currently.
Right, exactly. And I way back when I wrote a book called Junior High Ministry many years ago, and I always believed that kids, as they're becoming adults, and they are becoming adults, from the time they go into middle school, I know now we talk about people who still haven't reached adulthood into their 30s and 40s, but I've always believed that adolescence was that way, that children move into adulthood, and they need to be mentored by and taught by and led by adults who come alongside them. We can't just isolate them on their own. And I've written about this, talked about it, spoke about it for so long, and now I'm in a church actually trying to make it happen. And so this is an idea lab. You want some ideas, right, of how to do that?
I do want some ideas. I want, some of us, we're younger and we're trying to engage intergenerationally ourselves. And so how do we then try to engage and also make it happen in our youth ministries?
Yeah, well, the church that I'm in right now used to have worship services for young, some really hip, cool worship services, and then a worship service for the old people. We did away with that. So now everybody worships together. That's the first thing. And of course, we had to make sure that the pastor and the rest of the ministry team leaders were all on board with this, that the whole idea was we wanted old and young to actually be in the same room, kids with their parents when they're worshiping God together. So that was one of the first things that we did. First time we did that, about half the church left.
So a great idea.
But
what happened?
Again. Yes.
But it's getting better, right?
But I'll have to say that we spent about a year before we made that transition of trying to teach the older. That's one of the reasons why me, an old lifer in youth ministry, in fact, this year is my 50th year since I went into youth ministry. I started in 1963.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So, I was started in Youth for Christ about this time, fall of 1963, in my first youth group. And now that I'm 50 years older, I can go into a church and work with all the old people and help them love on kids the way I still want to love on kids, and I still do.
Yeah. What have been some of the benefits that you've seen of doing that combined worship? Have you seen impact in the older people and in the younger people? Have you seen the benefits of that?
Well, every week our senior pastor, and I'm not the senior pastor, I am pastor to generations, but our senior pastor makes a real effort to call out some of the older people and introduce them, people who are having wedding anniversaries and so forth. And likewise with the kids, getting them involved in some way so that people get to know each other a little bit better. But that's just one of the ways that we do this. We've also changed up a lot of our church educational programs. For example, we started on Sunday mornings doing Sundays, what we call, this is during the summer, we call them summer seminars, which we do away with all of the typical age-graded Sunday school things and do intergenerational seminars that people of all ages can attend, so that people are interacting with each other, having discussions around round tables, and doing it all across the generations. It's been one of the most successful things that we've done at College Avenue.
So let me clarify. So say the topic is sharing your faith, and every age is welcome to come hear that seminar.
Exactly. I taught one this last summer, for example, on Christ in the media. You know, how do you watch television? How do you choose what movies to go to, and so forth? Well, that's something that old people need to hear about, and kids as well. And to have them sitting around tables and having conversations about this is a powerful thing. So
practically speaking, what is that like? I know we're saying intergenerational, but like how young do you go to those seminars? Like how
we're
long?
Talking primarily. We have a group called Team 56, which is our 5th and 6th graders. So it's Team 56 and older, doing things together. We used to have youth group retreats, like a winter retreat for our junior highs, a winter retreat for our high school group, a winter retreat for our college group. Now we do an all-church retreat where the whole church goes away for the weekend. And the whole theme is on community building, getting to know each other. We have fun together. We have a big talent show called CABC's Got Talent. That's CABC's our church acronym. Okay. But we have a lot of fun with that.
And what do you do with the students who come into your ministry who are not connected to a family? They're coming by themselves. I mean, I can see the benefits of the intergenerational because they are surrounded by a family. But how do you help get them connected?
Well, we are right next to San Diego State University, so we have a lot of college students who come, and they're not connected to individual families in the church, but our church becomes their family. And that's the whole point. That's why we want to be intergenerational. And the purpose being that everybody's a part of it. And we don't isolate people according to age, but instead we bring everybody together as often as we can. There are still some age-appropriate kinds of things that go on during the week. There's small groups and so forth. But what we try to do is, in our youth ministry, is with every event, everything that we plan, how can we make this more of an intergenerational event? What can we do? For example, our youth group, every summer, way before I came to College Avenue, would always, during the summer on Wednesday nights, go to the beach. And they'd surf and have a little campfire thing at La Jolla Shores. For those of you who don't live in California, too bad. Well, but we have this beach. It's really nice, and our youth group would always go to La Jolla Shores and do their beach night. Well, we just said, what can we do to make this more intergenerational? Well, now we have all church beach nights during the summer, and the whole church shows up. We just take over La Jolla Shores, and it's been one of the great things that we do during the summer, just to become more of a family at College Avenue.
That's great. And if we wanted to get more information or contact you, what would be the easiest way for us to do that?
Well, I do have a vanity email address. It's wayne@waynerice.com, and I have a website, waynerice.com, too. But also, our church, College Avenue Baptist, it's cabc.org on the old interweb.
The interweb. Wayne, thanks so much for challenging us to think about engaging intergenerationally to change things up in kind of a radical way, or maybe even in a little way. But
yeah, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's a whole other thing to actually do it. Yeah. And that's the fun part. It's the scary part. It's the part that sometimes you get a lot of pushback sometimes. Yeah. But it's worth doing. So I commend it to anybody who really wants to have a church that's more like a real family.
Thank you. Thanks, Wayne. Yeah. Thanks you guys for joining us in the Idea Lab.